Hello and welcome to day 3 of the second week of the CAS Virtual Showcase. You have joined the last webinar of the day entitled NCCE Computer Science Accelerator, Who, What and Why. This webinar is part of the CAS Virtual Showcase, which is a 2-week window of webinars designed to support the CAS community. I'm Wendy McLeod and I am the CAS Community Outreach Manager for communities across London and the East of England. Joining me this afternoon is the presenter of our session, Steve Clark. Steve is the Interim Computer Science Accelerator Programme Manager, a role he has recently taken on, having moved from the education team where he was Senior Education Lead for Computing. Prior to joining STEM Learning and the NCCE, Steve was Director of Computing at a school in Surrey and worked as a local authority computing education consultant, providing school improvement services for Surrey and Devon. The National Centre for Computing Education has been established to provide support for teaching computing in schools and colleges in England across all key stages. It is funded by the Department for Education as part of its drive to raise academic standards to ensure that students have the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in an increasingly digital world. The National Centre offers local support across England, delivered via a network of computing hubs and subject matter experts. During the session, please use the question window on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions. All attendees are in listen-only mode. The top of the window has an orange rectangle which can be expanded or collapsed. If using social media, the hashtag for the event is hashtag CASVirtual20. I'm now going to hand over to Steve for the session.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming along. I like to keep things simple, so the title of my presentation is exactly what it's about. So sort of make you aware of what the Computer Science Accelerator course is, who it's for and why you might want to do it. So if you've got questions throughout, there are a couple of places where I'll pause to take questions as well, but as said, please do put them in the chat and we'll address them. So you had a bit of an overview there of what the National Centre for Computing Education is. You know, the headline though is that we want every child in England to have a world-leading computing education, and one of the key things in order for us to be able to do that is that we need, first of all, schools to be providing computing, and particularly GCSE computing, as an option so that children can actually take it in the first place. But in order to be able to do that, we need to have enough teachers to be able to deliver it and deliver it effectively at that. So that's really where the CS Accelerator programme comes in, as I'll explain in a minute. So the NCCE, if you're not aware, is actually a consortium. So the National Centre for Computing Education isn't actually an organisation in its own right as such. It's actually a consortium of 3 different partners. So Raspberry Pi, I'm sure you'll have heard of, BCS and STEM Learning. So we all do our own little bits for the programme. So Raspberry Pi do the online resources, for instance. BCS largely deal with the certification, and STEM Learning do the kind of programme management of things, so to speak. That's a very simplistic overview, but that's effectively what we do. So what is the CS Accelerator? So it's a programme that is aimed at teachers who are either currently teaching computing or computer science, or those that are interested in teaching it. It's an incredibly flexible programme that's designed to give you the subject knowledge and confidence to teach GCSE computer science. So just to highlight the fact that this is a subject knowledge programme, I'll explain what options we have for improving things like pedagogy when it comes to teaching computing in a moment. But the CS Accelerator programme is in its essence primarily a subject knowledge programme. So it will enhance your knowledge of computer science to a level that you would feel confident by the end of it of delivering GCSE computer science. And it's made up of a blended learning model of both online and face-to-face, and I've put kind of a / remote courses. So obviously at the moment we're not currently running face-to-face, but we've turned a lot of our face-to-face courses into remote delivered courses, and I'll explain those in a minute. And the other thing I think is really important to highlight is the fact that the programme is DFE funded. I think one of the barriers we've actually had to schools engaging with us is that sometimes what we're offering sounds too good to be true, and there's this assumption that there must be a catch. I'll explain the bursaries and so on in a minute that go with the programme. But it is that we need to get more computer science delivered, and we need more computer science teachers to do that. That's the only catch there. This programme exists to achieve that. So the actual CS Accelerator programme, when you complete that, when you pass the test at the end, which isn't as scary as it sounds, so I'll explain that in a minute as well, but when you pass the test at the end, you will actually be then certified with the NCCE certificate in GCSE subject knowledge. And this is awarded by BCS and the Chartered Institute for IT, and accredited by the Royal Academy of Engineering. So it sounds very grand. It's an impressive certificate to have on your CV. Other benefits are that you do get generous bursaries, and I've got to slide that in a moment. The CPD for doing the CS Accelerator programme is free in itself, but also once you've passed the CS Accelerator programme, all of the other courses that we run, which we tend to call our core courses, which aren't actually part of the CS Accelerator programme, so these include things that do cover things like pedagogy as well, they will also become free and available to you as well. And these courses will count towards another certificate that we're developing, the Teach Computing Secondary Teacher Certification, which I'll come back to in a moment as well. So just to explain what the bursaries are and what bursaries are available. So at the moment, with us being in remote delivery, there is a total bursary of £920 available for completing the CSA. So that will be payable within 6 to 8 weeks of you passing the test. £300 of that 920 is ring fenced for the teacher to spend how they see fit. So that could be on resources for the classroom, it could be to support a trip, additional CPD. So really, however the teacher sees fit to improve computing in their school or for their own development. When we have face-to-face, when we return to a face-to-face offer as well, there is also an additional £220 per day up to 4 days, so a total of £880 available to cover your time out of the classroom, the cost of supply, the travel, etc. attached to that. So in total, you can actually get up to £1,800 bursary. So if you are an ITT teacher, a supply teacher, or a returning teacher, so a teacher that's been away from the profession for a while and looking to get back into the school, a change that happened in April is that we were able to expand the eligibility of the programme so that these teachers are now eligible to take part in the CSA as well. And you can get the bursary, however, the bursary will be deferred until you get your position, you actually secure a teaching position in a school in England. So the training will be free for you now, and that bursary is something that you will take with you to your school upon securing employment. So that's also quite a nice thing to be able to say when you go for an interview that, oh, I also come with this bursary of up to £1,800 as well. So have we had any questions at all on any of those?
Not yet, no.
Okay, I'll keep going then. So in terms of eligibility then, I've obviously just touched upon this, but who can actually do the CSA? So as I say, when the programme first started, it really was for existing teachers and intended for teachers that were computing teachers that needed to improve their subject knowledge. As of April, we have expanded that so that the following teachers or people are eligible to do the CS Accelerator. So this includes teachers from all subjects, and this includes college instructors as well. So one of the things that we recognise is that actually teachers may want this as a second subject. They may want to support the teaching of computing in their school as a second subject. So teachers from any subject are now eligible. Trainee teachers of all subjects, whatever route they're taking into the profession as a trainee, are eligible to do the programme. Supply teachers and returning teachers.
Steve, we have got a question about that. Sorry. So Julie asks, how does it apply to those who return to teaching but then get a position in an independent school, i.e. the bursary?
So bursaries, unfortunately, are only payable to state schools. So you'd be able to do the training whilst you're looking for employment, but actually there would be no bursary that you'd be able to take to an independent school, unfortunately. Okay.
And there's also another question. You used to have the BCS certificate. So has CAS replaced the BCS certificate, or is what you're talking about something different?
To be honest, I don't. You may actually know more about the BCS certificate than me. This has not, as far as I'm concerned, this has not replaced it. This is something different. I don't know whether you've got anything to add to that.
Yes, I think the BCS certificate that Taslim's referring to was the original certificate that we used to offer for secondary teachers. So in a sense, yes, this has replaced it because it doesn't exist, the other one, anymore. So this is the new certification. So I think I can say yes to that.
Thank you. Okay. So in terms of these different groups of people that we're now appealing to do the CS Accelerator program, you know, there are different benefits for different groups, and just sort of to summarize why you may want to do this. So one of the things we recognise is that existing teachers of computing will value the fact that there's a certificate available and something that they can showcase. So we were able to also make another change early on this year, where the minimum CPD requirement before you can take the test is now only 10 hours. Previously it was 40 hours, but this change was done partly to recognise the fact that some teachers already have fairly strong subject knowledge but would value the certificate, but actually wouldn't benefit from doing the whole 40 hours of CPD. So there's the route now that existing teachers can get through this in a fairly quick time and then start focusing on the follow-up certificate. Computing is a shortage subject, and so if you can offer computing as part of your as a second subject or as your primary subject, it's obviously going to help you potentially when you apply for jobs. It may help you negotiate better starting salaries, or it may also help you get promotion. You may be in a really kind of popular subject where actually it's really difficult to even to get to a head of department level, but actually you may find that computing is a quicker route to that at the moment. It also gives those of you which maybe have experienced a bit of a reduction in curriculum time in your areas recently, or again maybe you are in a shrinking school or a school where you know there are more than teachers needed them for the times available, so you tend to be the kind of person that is given whatever's left over at the end of the year to make up your timetable, whereas actually taking control of that and offering computing as a second subject would actually allow you to be probably, you know, used in a way that you wanted to be used a bit more. Also trainee teachers or supply teachers or returning teachers looking to get back into the classroom and applying for jobs, it will help you to stand out from the competition. PE teachers is a really good example, for instance, where there's usually many tens of people applying for a single position. So if you're able to offer computer science as a second subject, that may well be the thing that actually secures you the interview at the school. And the other thing, which actually shouldn't be overlooked, is that computer science is actually a lot of fun to teach. Yes, it's challenging at times, but it's often challenging because people are often trying to do it still without the strength and subject knowledge that they may have had. So for instance with ICT, so one of the things this program addresses hopefully is closing the gaps in subject knowledge, and will help you to kind of be more secure in teaching it, and therefore you'll find it a more enjoyable subject to teach as well. So we've got a number of case studies, which I won't go into great detail now, but just sort of highlight that we have got different examples of people from these different kind of categories. So Leroy at the top there, he was an experienced teacher that kind of came in and did the summer school to just brush up on subject knowledge and get the certificate. But he found it really valuable, so it's worth kind of reading his experience. Likewise, Julie and Helen have come from English and music respectively, and are now offering it as a second subject. And we've also got the most recent case that's been added to the blog is Fiona, who's a returning teacher who actually is a specialist in computer science but wanted to brush up before returning to the classroom. So we add to these fairly regularly, so it's worth reading about other people's experiences if you are wondering whether it is for you or not. One of the things we've done to try and also make it easier for those of you coming from different backgrounds in order to know where to start with this is we've introduced a number of suggested pathways. So the link on the left hand side there through the teachcomputing.org website /CS Accelerator, that will take you to a page where, as long as you're not signed in, and I'll explain that a bit more in a minute, as long as you're not signed in, you will see these different pathways, and they are available as a PDF download at the moment. So for there, we've got a range of people. So this one is computing for the non-specialist. So if you're a second subject teacher thinking about teaching computing, then this would probably be your starting point. So those are the 4 courses that we would recommend that you do as your starting point. If you are a computing non-specialist, we are not expecting you at the end of those 4 courses to be ready to take the test. Although you would have done enough hours to have taken the test, we would be fully expecting that you would then probably think about, well, what pathways next? Well, I've done the basics, I'm no longer that complete beginner, which pathway should I look at next? The pathways, though, are only as a guide, and you don't have to follow them, you can choose your own route through, but they hopefully are useful as an identified where to start. The kind of the other end of the spectrum for this is that we've also got, I'm showing here, the advanced pathway. So we've got quite a range of courses that are the kind of higher end of the GCSE spec, which those of you that maybe already have that stronger subject knowledge, there are courses here that hopefully will appeal to you as well, so that you will have a genuine need to do that 10 hours of CPD in order to take the test. So I said a minute ago about, you will see those pathways will appear to you as long as you're not enrolled. So this is a bit of a glitch at the moment that we're going to be fixing at some point in the future. But once you enroll, and so if those of you are looking at this and you've already enrolled, you're thinking, I don't remember seeing those pathways. That will be because when you're signed in, those pathways disappear and you see a slightly different screen. So in order to get those pathways up, just simply go to the top right of your screen and log out, and then you'll see those pathways again. Like I say, eventually we will have those on this page as well. So one of the key things to do with the CS Accelerator is to make sure you have actually enrolled. So when you go to this page, you do have the Enroll Now button on the right hand side, and that will create an account. Just to highlight the fact that it will take you to the STEM website as well. You'll need to create a STEM learning account, because that is effectively what the Teach Computing website is built on, is the STEM system. Let's go to the next slide. So one of the things that will also appear to you is an option to do a diagnostic quiz. Now the quiz is there, it's multiple choice quiz, and it will help you to identify again which other kind of areas maybe you need to focus on for your CPD. If you're a complete beginner, we would expect this to be quite a low score, so don't worry too much about it. But for those of you that are not too sure where your gaps are, you may find this really useful. And it's also very similar to what the end assessment is. So the end assessment is a multiple choice based around, in a very similar format, based on the entire content of the GCSE. It's not just based on the courses that you have taken, your route through the CPD. It's important you're aware of that. This is an entire GCSE subject knowledge course, and therefore the test at the end, the quiz at the end, does assess your ability to teach all areas of it. So one of the things that is helpful once you've enrolled on the course, so for those of you that haven't enrolled, when you go into the CS Accelerator page on the website, you won't see what you're seeing in front of you here. But what happens once you enroll is you then get a kind of helpful checklist showing you what you've done and what you need to do. So when you enroll on a course, that course will then appear on your checklist, and when you complete the course, it will appear as checked, and it will tell you what else you need to do. So once you've enrolled, as I say, do the quiz and identify your pathway, book your course, either a remote course or a face-to-face if it's available, and then once you've completed that, you will need to do at least one more course. So one of the 10 hours, one of the courses that make up the 10 hours must be a face-to-face or a remote course. You can then make up the remaining hours as you want with either online courses or another remote or face-to-face. There is no upward limit. You can do all of the CS Accelerator courses if you want to. There's no pressure to take the test before you're ready, but you can take the test, fail the test, retake the test when you're ready to as well. So there's nothing to stop you taking the test when you think you're ready. You don't have to be too cautious if you want to see at any point how you're doing. So there will be 25 multiple choice questions with a 30-minute time limit, and the pass mark is 65% to get through it. So at the bottom, you'll see it says pass the test. That will open up to you once you have got a minimum of 10 hours. So in terms of what the CPD is, so I've been talking about online and remote and face-to-face. So we've turned quite a lot of our face-to-face courses into remote CPD at the moment. So the ones that are on the screen are the ones that are available at the moment. This isn't the entire offer that we've got, so we do have more courses that we felt didn't really lend themselves so well to doing a remote CPD. and they will be available again hopefully next year, from September. We've got a summer school running in August at our STEM centre, which is doing really well for numbers, which is our first kind of return to an offer of face-to-face. And we're probably going to be putting on a second one as well. So if that's something that's of interest to you, keep an eye out for that. So the remote CPD is what is normally our face-to-face that's been tweaked and turned into something that's suitable for remote CPD. The other thing that I'm referring to is the online CPD. Now, the online CPD is the CPD that Raspberry Pi have created. Now, these do not have a facilitator as such attached to them. There's no facilitator input to the actual video themselves. There is somebody available to support you with questions, but there's not actual facilitated session, whereas the remote CPD, much like a face-to-face CPD, has facilitated sessions. So these are available at different times over the course of the year. They are scheduled to run. They take approximately 8 hours to complete. Just a word of caution when signing up for these courses, they're actually hosted on the Future Learn platform, which is a MOOC which you may be familiar with already. You can actually find all of these courses on Future Learn without having signed up. Without having signed up to the CS Accelerator, you can find it on the Future Learn course itself, the website itself. If you take that route in and go directly to it, that will not show up on your dashboard. So it's really important that you enroll on the Teach Computing website, then you search for courses on the Teach Computing website, and you find it that way. And that also gives you enhanced access, such as the certificate at the end of each course. In addition to the certificate we get for the CS Accelerator, Future Learn gives certificates just for completing each of these online courses. So normally you'd have to pay for that, but if you go in through Teach Computing, you can get that certificate for free as well. So again, there's a real variety of courses here. There's definitely something for everybody. Even if you are quite an advanced computer science teacher, I'm sure you'll find something in there that is of interest. We do have some courses specifically for ITT teachers as well, trainees. We don't insist that you attend these, but we do strongly recommend it because they'll kind of be pitched at a level where more appropriate for you. So do search if you are ITT for the ITT courses on the website. A couple of things to highlight. We have CS champions, computer science champions, who are effectively mentors. They're there to mentor and support you through the CS Accelerator program. Their aim is to kind of there to help you get to the end and pass the test. They're also there a little bit to keep nudging you along. If you pause for a while on your CPD, they might pester you a little bit and just say, do you need any help? Do you need support? But they're also now starting to run network support sessions as well to help you get through the CS Accelerator. So whereas at the moment they've been tending to work one-to-one with individuals, we're starting to kind of trial smaller networks of attendees of the CS Accelerator as well to kind of help you work and support each other in a group through the program. They will also do within these kind of the CS champion within these sessions will also kind of help point you to other sports such as CAS as well, your CAS communities. So I mentioned earlier there is another certificate on its way as well, because what we don't want is at the end of the CSA that's the end of the journey for you. We have the an NCCE certificate in secondary computing teaching. Now, I said earlier on that CS Accelerator is very much about subject knowledge. This one is much broader. It will allow you to celebrate the fact that you've got your subject knowledge, because the first part of achieving this is that you complete the CS Accelerator. But it also allows you to attend courses that are more around pedagogy. It will celebrate your involvement in the wider community. So for instance, if you support one of your local CAS communities of practice, or you contribute resources, etc., that is something that you can log and will count towards your certificate. So this is something that will be coming later on this year or very early next year. It will automatically, you'll be notified when it does become available, but once you've completed the CS Accelerator, as I say, all of the other CPD will become freely available to you as well. If you're doing some of those courses, so if you choose to do one that has a pedagogy link to it, it is more than likely that that will be one of the courses that will then count towards this certificate as well. So they would be applied to your the retrospective, they'll be applied to your journey. So like I showed you, the kind of checklist that appears for the CS Accelerator, you'll get one of those for this secondary computing teaching certificate, and it will automatically record any CPD you do. So if you do complete the CS Accelerator now, you don't need to wait till this is released to start on your next sort of CPD. You can start, and that will be retrospectively added to your journey. So really the final thing for me just to say as well is kind of a bit beyond the CS Accelerators. Well, what if your school or college doesn't currently offer GCSE computer science? Well, in addition to obviously getting some teachers onto the CSA and benefiting from the bursaries of that, you may well be eligible to work with a subject matter expert. So our subject matter experts are working with schools to create action plans with the intention of getting them to deliver computer science. So really a subject matter expert is effectively a consultant in a way. They're a curriculum consultant. They will help you develop an action plan that will look at what training you need, what resources you need, any other considerations in order to get you ready to teach computing. Simply engaging with the SME and creating an action plan entitles you to a bursary of £1,400, and then that £1,400 may be useful to help you complete the actions on your action plan. Once you're in a position where you're able to offer computer science at GCSE and you're able to confirm this, you will also be entitled to additional £4,000 bursary, which again will be payable to you in advance as long as you're able to confirm that you will teach it, and that can then be used as well to provide additional resources to support the teaching of computer science. So, you know, there's a lot of support for you out there with this. The money and the training, you know, it's excellent value. There really are no catches to this. Like I say, it is about getting you to teach computing and teach computer science. So really it's a case of, do we have any more questions?
Yes, we have quite a few questions, so
okay.
I'll work the way through. The first one is, are NQTs eligible?
Yes, absolutely. So is this a second subject or computing NQT, do you know?
They haven't said. That's
okay, it doesn't actually matter. It makes no difference to eligibility. It's just used to know. But yeah, so any teacher now, as long as you're in a state school in England, you are entitled to do this, whether your subject's computing or any other subject. If you're interested in doing this, you're entitled to enrol. And if you're already in NQT in employment, then your school would receive the bursary as soon as you complete the programme.
Brilliant, thank you. We have another question. It says, Steve, do you provide bursaries as a department or as a teacher? We are 5 in the department, so how does it work? One of us completed the CSA course and got the bursary, but I'm not sure how that works for the remaining teachers. Please, can you elaborate? Thank you.
No, so if I'm understanding the question correctly, there is no limit how many teachers in your school can do this and receive the bursary. So if you had 10 people in your school, for simplicity, because my maths isn't great, but if you had 10 people doing the CS Accelerator and completing it under remote CPD bursary rules, you would get £9,200 for your school. So it's per teacher doing it, not per department. So you're not limited to that for one school, if that makes sense. So per individual.
It's not one teacher, all the teachers. No. Anybody teaching computer science in the school can claim the bursary and can do the course.
And just to highlight, they don't have to be currently teaching computer science in the school as well. So, you know, this is about building additional capacity. So it could be from any subjects as well. So, yeah, doesn't just have to be made up from the current department.
Brilliant. Thanks for clarifying that. Jamie asks, how do you get back to the results of the diagnostics tests?
How do you get back to the results of the So how that's a good question, which I don't know the answer to off the top of my head. So I'm assuming you've done the diagnostic test previously, and now you want to look back at the results you've done. Okay, if you can email info@teachcomputing.org, or I'm happy to share my email. Are you able to add my email into the comments?
Yes.
Can you do that? And then I'm happy to answer it if you email later. I'll find out the exact response to that.
Yeah, definitely. Let's have a look. This is a question. It says from Taslim, if you join the CAS program, do you automatically get a mentor as well? I wonder if she's referring
So I think
CAS community perhaps, or I'm not.
I don't. Does it mean the CSA program? I think they're probably.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Yes.
I think that's what. Yeah, it's confusing CAS and CSA. So assuming that, yes. So you should. What happens is our CS champions, we update the list of all people that have enrolled on a regular basis for our CS champions. So in theory, you should receive communication at some point fairly soon after doing your, either enrolling or doing your first bit of CPD. If you feel that actually, you really want that support early on, and I mentioned earlier that one of the things we're starting to do now is to put on all these network meetings, because we recognise now that we're going to have a lot more people coming from a background which isn't computing background, and therefore probably are going to need more support than those that already teach computing. We do want to make sure we really are reaching out and reaching you very quickly and giving you as much support as you need. So again, if you don't hear from, or if you've already enrolled and you haven't heard yet, feel free to either email me directly and I'll make sure I put you in touch with somebody straight away, or you can email info@teachcomputing.org as well and request that.
Ian asks, what is the Teacher Learn URL?
What is the URL?
The Teacher Learn URL.
Do we mean the website for the Teach Computing or Future Learn?
Future Learn, I think is possibly what he means by that.
Okay, so Future Learn is you don't actually need the URL Future Learn itself. You can get onto this through the Teach Computing website. So if you go to teachcomputing.org and go into our courses section, you can book onto all of the Teach Computing courses there. What will happen, if it's your first time, it will get you to create a Future Learn account as well. What is really important here, and I should have said this earlier, that is when you enroll when you sign up for your Future Learn account, you use the same email address and details as you use to sign up for Teach Computing, because you are actually creating another account. The way that our website will then know that you've completed that course or enrolled in that course is by comparing email addresses. So it's really important to use the same ones. But yeah, if you always go via teachcomputing.org and then book on through there, that will take you to Future Learn itself. If anybody is in the position where actually you think you've already signed up on Future Learn and you haven't yet enrolled in the CSA, or you have and it's not showing, as long as you go in and change your email addresses to be the same on Teach Computing and Future Learn, it should within 24 hours update to show that. If that doesn't happen, again, email us at info@computing.org and we can look into it for you.
Yeah, I'm just confirming to Jane, who was asking again about can more than one person from the same school complete this and both claim the bursary. I think she joined slightly late to the webinar. So just to confirm, yes, all teachers can claim the bursary. They can all take part in the programme. And also, Steve said earlier, even teachers who are not currently teaching computer science but are interested in upskilling in this subject can also do it. So just to clarify that.
Thank you.
Yes, Julie was asking a question about the bursary. Is it for schools that are only in category 5 or 6?
No, so the CS Accelerator bursary, the only requirement of CS Accelerator is that you are in a state school in England. So that is the only requirement for the CS Accelerator. Some of our other bursaries, such as SME, some of the subject matter expert support, for instance, it does relate to that. But for the CS Accelerator, it's purely around being in a state school.
Brilliant. And this is just a question from Jamie, who's started, I think, the course. He says, how long does it take for your completed courses to be updated on the NCCE website based on the courses completed on the Future Learn platform? Some of my courses are not shown as completed on NCCE but are on Future Learn.
Right, okay. For Future Learn, I thought that was fairly immediate. I would need to double check that. So our remote CPD courses, there can be a bit of a delay in because we have to wait for the facilitators of the remote CPD to return the registers to us, and then we have to record that. So sometimes we have to do a bit of chasing to get those registers returned. So we do occasionally get a delay. If it's showing as completed on your Future Learn one though, and not on your other one, assuming that some of your Future Learn ones are showing up, then that suggests that there's not a problem with your sign-in. If none of your Future Learn ones are showing up, the first thing to do is just double check that you are using the same account details on Future Learn, the same email address on Future Learn as you are for the Teach Computing website. If none of those sound like the right solution, if you, again, either email me or email info@teachcomputing.org, and we can investigate that for you.
Yeah, brilliant. I have actually sent out the teachcomputing.org and your email address to everybody who's watching this webinar, so everybody should have that. Brilliant. I think that's it for all the questions. I'm just going to turn my camera back on so you can see me again. There we go. Can I just say a big thank you to everybody who's joined us for this webinar this afternoon, and a special thanks to Steve for presenting. Please, can I remind you to share your highlights from today's session via social media and the CAS website. At the end of this webinar, a short survey will appear on your screen, and we'd be really grateful if you could just take a minute to complete it. Additionally, in about a week's time, you'll receive an email with a CPD certificate confirming your attendance at this session. A recording of this webinar will be available on the CAS website in the near future. And coming up tomorrow morning, we have sessions on deep dives into computing, Isaac Computer Science, and Amazing Computer Science in Key Stage 3. We hope to see you at other sessions, and please do continue to spread the word about the first ever CAS Virtual Showcase. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope to see you next time.